Hello, everybody. This is Mrs. Hunsucker. Today we're going to start with Unit 2. I hope it's been a terrific Monday for you. We're going to cover two sections on linear pairs and vertical angles and supplementary and complementary angles. So we're going to discuss 4 different special angle pairs. Some you may be more familiar with than others. And I just want to remind you that you do have 2 quizzes, 201 and 202. And your IXL practice as always. Just to go ahead and get started on a warm-up, if you take a look at these figures A and figure B, they have something in common, and that would be the straight angles BAD and WOF. So there are 3 angles in each figure. The 2 smaller angles will sum to 180 degrees because each of them has a ray whose endpoint is on a straight angle. So together, the 2 smaller angles will sum to the measure of the straight angle, which is 180 degrees. So with that said, let me see if I can annotate a little bit. Let's see. All right, so in this one, this particular one, if you take 180 and subtract the given angle, 172, you'll end up with the missing angle being 108 degrees, meaning this one right here. Because, like I mentioned before, let me see if I can draw. There we go. All right, give me 1 minute. All right, so these 2 angles here sum to 180 degrees. And that's why we can subtract 72 from 180, okay? Same thing here, these 2 angles. One endpoint, point O on ray OL sits on the line. And then we have 2 smaller angles, WOL and FOL. So we know that we have a straight angle, and the 2 smaller angles will add to 180. They're supplementary. They also share a side. So if you, let me see. All right. Let's go ahead and go with some text here. So what that means is we're going to be able to add 16x plus 8. All right, that's the left smaller angle plus the right smaller angle. 7x plus 11 will equal 180 degrees. Okay? And if you solve for x, you're going to get 16x and 7x is 23x, and 11 and 8 is 19 equals 180. Subtracting 19 from both sides, we'll have 23x equals 161, and x would equal 7, okay? Now, the question did ask for x, but it also asked for the measure of angle WOL. That's when we go in and we substitute. So WOL is, let's see, is the angle that is 16x plus 8. So I'm going to do 16 times 7 plus 8. And grab your calculator and go ahead and calculate 16 times 7 and then add 8. Your answer should be 120. All right, so you'll see our learning targets momentarily. And one of the learning targets is to notice what happens when two angles are formed on straight lines, and such as WOL and FOL. And those angles are considered linear pairs. We'll go over their definitions in just a moment. All right. All right, moving on. Now, in this next slide, we have a pair of complementary angles. Let me see if I can erase all this. Okay. So can you find a pair of angles whose sum is 90 degrees? They're complementary. Okay. So if you look where my spotlight is, right here, angle C, okay? There's actually 3 angle C's, okay? But there's a square there, and that means that that angle is 90 degrees, or the sum of the two smaller angles is 90 degrees. So angle ACD is a smaller acute angle. DCE is a smaller acute angle. When you add their measures together, they equal the measure of ACB, which is 90. Okay. All right. Moving on, we have learning targets, identifying vertical angle pairs and linear pairs, solve problems with linear pairs and vertical angles, identify complementary and supplementary angles, solve problems involving measures of complementary and supplementary angles, and complete steps of a proof. So here we have a linear pair, okay? Again, from the warm-up, we're sharing sides, okay? So these two angles, they're both, one's acute, one's obtuse, and they share this ray. They share a side, and then they are formed, the endpoint of the ray, okay, sits on the line, okay? And the measure of angle A plus the measure of angle B is 108, because that's a line. Those angles, one of their sides is a straight line, okay? So that's 180 degrees altogether. So they have a side in common. Linear pairs are supplementary. We call these linear pairs. So this window here, the left upper portion and the right upper portion, they are, they share that purple side. And that is a straight line that goes from one edge of the circle to the other. So those two angles are formed by a line, a straight angle, 180 degrees. That means by the angle addition postulate that the measure of the left angle plus the measure of the right angle equals 180 degrees. All right, with that being said, we have something called vertical angles, another learning target. They're angles formed by inside the handles and inside the blade. Okay, inside the handles, inside the blade. You don't share a side this time like linear pairs do, but they share a vertex. And these two angles are called vertical angles. They're formed by intersecting lines, AB and CD. They only have a vertex point in common. So vertical angles are formed by intersecting lines, whereas linear pairs are formed by a straight line and a ray on whose endpoint is on the line. So piggybacking off what I just said, vertical angles right here because the straight lines intersect. They're formed by intersecting lines. So the left angles A and B will be congruent. They're formed by lines. If you look at the diagram on the right with the red X, okay, C and D are not vertical angles because if you notice, we have one line, but the other is not a line, okay? It doesn't measure 180 degrees, that angle. That angle is less than 180 degrees. Remember, the vertical angles are formed by intersecting lines. All right, I have this video. It is on the slide there, virtualnerd.com, on vertical angles. So you might try and look for that and listen. Vertical angles are congruent. That means they're equal in measure. So if we look here at this diagram, okay, we have two intersecting lines, TW and VS. TW and VS. So inside the blades of the scissor, inside the handles of the scissor, those angles are opposite of one another and they share vertex R. So to solve for X, we are going to go ahead and set 2x plus 18 equal to 3x. All right, in solving, we're going to get, we can subtract 2x from both sides. So we'll get 18 equals x. And we can switch the order using the symmetric property. If you remember, the symmetric property says A equals B, B equals A. All right, so x is 18, okay? That means if I go back in and substitute into the angle that says 3x plus 18, 2x plus 18, we know that 2x plus 18 is 2 times 18 plus 18, okay, because this angle was 2x plus 18. All right, and that's going to equal 54. All right, so let me just straighten that out. All right, so if angle, can't seem to get it to work. All right, so if this angle is 54, can you figure out what angles SRW is equal to? SRW. Okay, so if you look right in here, that's the angle we want. If this angle is 54, do you know the measure of this angle here? Because look at straight angle TRW and look at the end point of ray RS, point R. Okay, so these two angles share a side. Okay, they are not opposite one another. Okay, they are not formed by intersecting lines. RS is a ray, and straight angle TRW is 180 degrees. That's one line and one ray. So these are supplementary angles. So to solve for SRW, you would do 180 minus 54. And you'd come up with 126, okay? So this angle is 126. So the correct answer is 126. Whoops, that's not what I wanted. I'm not getting the drawing option. All right. There we go, 126. All right. Send your questions my way if you're not sure what just happened. Okay, moving on. All right. All right, so on this one, one of our learning targets was to be able to use a proof with proving x equals 28 using linear pairs. So if you look here, it simply comes down to this. We are told in the given statement ELG is 124. ELG, this entire angle is 124. So picture that. We've got, hopefully you see, it's all of this entire angle here is 124. Okay, so I'm saying ELG. Okay, with that said, that this big angle in here is 124. Let me see if I can stretch it a little bit. No. Okay, so that means that ELG, that's the angle that's 124, it shares a side with DLE. That means 2x and 124 are supplementary because they're linear pairs. They share that side, okay? So we're going to basically just say, okay, if ELG is 124, 124 plus 2x equals 180, okay? 124 plus 2x equals 180. All right, let's see if I can erase all this and start fresh. Okay, so we're going to do 124 plus 2x equals 180 because we have a ELG and DLE are a linear pair and they sum to 180. All right, if we subtract 124 from 180, we're going to get 56 equals, we're going to get 2x equals 56. And if you divide by 2, you're going to get 28. So x is 28, okay? So if you read the proof, just like your algebraic proofs, that's what we're virtually doing. Our first two statements is what was given to us, okay? ELD was given to us in the diagram. ELG was given up here in the given statement. However, both are given to us. We know what they are by looking at the diagram and the given statement, so the reasons in the two-column proof are given. Now, since we know they share a common side LE, I'm talking this big angle, okay? ELG and DLE, they share ray LE. That's what linear pairs do, share a ray, and they're formed on a straight angle. Okay, so we know they're supplementary. They're a linear pair because they share a side. So that's the reason we can say they're a linear pair, definition of linear pair. Now the measure of angle BLD and ELG, so 2x plus 124 equals 180. And that's because linear pairs are supplementary, okay? Linear pairs are supplementary. Let me see if I can move this out of the way. Okay, so linear pairs are supplementary. Let me get my eraser. Sorry, this is taking a little bit. Then we're left with substitution. 2x, I'm substituting the measure of ELD. I'm substituting 2x in for ELD. And up here in statement 4, it says plus the measure of ELG. In statement 5, I'm just replacing ELG with 124 was given, okay? So that's why the reason for step 5 is substitution. Now, statement 6, it's blank, but the reason is subtraction. So we're going to subtract 124 from 180, and we're going to get 2x equals 56. So that's our statement. Okay, that's the statement we're going to put right here. That's the subtraction property. And up here in statement 4, if you recall, that's linear pairs are supplementary. And that's the linear pair postulate. Okay. All right, so moving on. All right, if the measure of angle A, so we've got the concept of complementary from warm up, two or more angles that sum to 90 degrees, excuse me. If the measure of angle A is 40, then and the angle A and angle B are complementary. It says B is the complement of A. That just means A and B is complementary. What's the measure of angle B? Well, if angle A is 40 plus angle B equals 90, then all you have to do is subtract 40 from 90. Okay, so that means measure of angle B is 50 degrees. All right, moving on. If we know the measure of angle B is 90, okay, it says that A and C are supplementary, okay. Sorry. Angle C and B are supplementary, okay. It says C is a supplement of angle B. That just means they add together to equal a total of 180. So if we just found B to be 50 and B and C are supplementary, that means angle B, 50, plus some number, okay, equals 180 degrees. So to do that, we're going to do 180 minus 50. And that's how we're going to come up with the measure of angle C. All right. Any questions? Send me an email. All right. Lastly, we've got this Jamaican flag. And I want to know the measures of angle 1, 2, and 3. So with that said, let me get my eraser here. All right, so you got to think about the special angle pairs we just discussed. 2 and 126.9 degrees are formed by the blade and the handles of scissors. They're opposite one another. They're called vertical angles. They just have a point in common. So angle 2 is 126.9. So we say the measure of angle 2 equals 126.9 degrees. Okay. And then angle 1, the measure of angle 1, it shares a side with 126 degrees, 26.9 degrees. So that means they're linear pairs, okay? Vertical angles don't share sides. So that means that 126 plus the measure of angle 1 is 180. And we're going to subtract 126.9 from both sides. So we're going to get the measure of angle 1 equals 53.1 degrees. All right, and that'll do it. Send your questions my way. Take both quizzes, 102 202 and 201. Have a great day.